Hi, Tiffany. It's nice to see you again.
How you doing, Krista?
Good. How are you?
I'm tired.
You tired?
Yeah.
Did you stay up too late last night or get up too early today? What about?
Yeah, it's a combination. I've been doing this weird combo of being a night owl and an early bird. So.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sure that doesn't work out too well. I'm the type of person that goes to bed early and sleeps in, so I'm like the opposite.
And it must be really nice.
Sometimes I don't get all the stuff done that I need because I go to bed too early, but it's okay. So how have you been since our last visit? Has anything happened?
I've been thinking about living on my own, right?
Okay.
So I did talk to my mom, even though she didn't approach me first.
Okay.
But I think I would like to live on my own.
Okay, you want to start looking into living on your own? Okay. What made you come to that conclusion?
I've just been thinking about it more.
Okay.
You know, excuse me,
Oh, bless you. That time of year, the seasonal allergies.
yeah, I apologize.
No, you're okay.
That was just something that became more, the more I thought about it, the more I wanted it, so.
Okay. And just so you know, I guess I didn't really explain this in our last session. If you see me writing, I'm just kind of taking notes about what we're talking about, so that, you know, I can kind of, you know, because we have to keep track of those, so it just kind of helps me typing them up later. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm not like writing anything, you know, like about you. I'm just writing down, you know, kind of what we talk about so I can keep record of that for later. But like I said, that all stays in here. So I just wanted to make that clear to you because I realized I didn't talk about it in our last session. So, okay. So, okay, wanting to move out on your own, that's exciting. That's a new big step. So like, what have you done to start that process?
So far, what I've talked to my mother, and she said that you would be able to help me find resources for it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's
I
definitely.
think I'm gonna use you as my primary resource.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad to hear that you trust me enough to help you with that. Okay. So that's a big goal. Do you have any other type of, so like what other changes in your life would you like to see like as a result of our work? Like is just kind of working towards moving out on your own really like the main one, or are there some other ones that you'd like to work on too?
I think just finding a place. Ooh, excuse me, I have hiccups.
That's okay.
Man, my body today. But no, I just house is the main goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Well, one of okay, so your goal is you want to find a place. Are you looking for more of like an apartment or renting a house or?
I know I said house, but yeah, apartment.
Okay.
I'd rather not be completely on my own, you know?
Okay. Yeah, and then like apartment's kind of nice because there's like other people around versus a house, you know, it's usually just one, so. So, obviously, like there's some good things and some bad things about moving out on your own. I think it would be helpful for us, I know that you say like you want to do it, but I think it'd just be helpful for us to kind of work on like a pros and cons list of moving out on your own, just so we can kind of just, excuse me, sorry, look at that and just kind of, you know, make sure that you're informed about all the good things or the bad things that come with it, so we can make sure that that's what you want to do moving forward. Is that okay?
Sorry.
No,
Go
you're
for
good.
it.
Okay. You're lucky. When I get the hiccups, mine last for like ever. And ever and ever and ever. Like, I don't get them very often, but when I do, they don't stop, it feels like. Okay. So, what are some of the things that you think would be beneficial, like if you like about moving out? Like, what are some of the good things about moving out?
It'll give me a sense of independence, you know? For like the first time.
Yeah, your first time out on your own, it'll kind of allow you to dabble in, you know, being out on your own. But like you said, being in an apartment, you're not completely on your own, so that's nice.
And I'm just gonna beat you to this one, but have you ever heard of like, I think my mom called it the freshman complex, right? So like when students move into dorms for the very first time, they just go crazy because they're on their own.
For the first time ever.
Yeah, the freshman complex.
I've never heard of it called like that before. So that's, you'd say a con,
Yeah.
that's a possibility.
I mean, yeah.
Never heard it referenced like that before. Do you think that's something, you know, like knowing yourself, do you think that's something that you would struggle with kind of going crazy, or do you think you're pretty level-headed that?
No, I don't, because my mom and I like talk about it sometimes. So I think because I'm aware of it, I can avoid it, but you never know until you're actually in the situation.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that is, I never would have thought of that, but that is, bless you. Oh, is your case broke or did it just break?
Oh, no, it just comes apart like that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Thank you.
Okay. So can you think of, you know, any more kind of pros to being out on your own?
I think for me, I would, and this isn't even anything that like have been thinking about, but just privacy, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's nice. If like, you know, you ever want to have a friend over or something, it's kind of nice to just be able to like have them over on your own versus, you know, your mom and then you have two younger brothers too, always being
or not even just my own privacy, but if my brothers wanted to just come over for a bit, you know, or if my mom just wanted to escape my brothers for a bit, she could just come over. You know?
Your house can, or your apartment can kind of act like a place, like a sanctuary for them. Okay. I didn't think of it like that, but yeah. Especially, you know, younger brothers, I'm sure they're always wanting to kind of get out of the house, so.
Take me with you. No, it won't work.
You don't want to go there with me. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think about that. So like could another pro kind of be like, this kind of sets you up, so it helps you kind of start building your credit for like in the future, like if you ever wanted to buy a car or buy a house in the future.
I didn't even think about credit.
Oh really?
But I guess that can be a pro. But yeah.
Yeah, well I guess it could be a pro and a con, because, you know, as long as you make the payments on time and everything. Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
As long as, you know, you make the payments on time and everything, it'll build your credit, but if you know, fall behind, then that may hurt your credit. But, and that's one thing, so, we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth later, but another thing that we can kind of work, together with is kind of building like a budget and seeing like your expenses and your income and working with that to see like what kind of apartments that I can start looking at for you, and just seeing like what you're, you know, able to like afford, and
Okay.
if we need to make any adjustments there.
I can bring in check stubs or excuse me.
Hiccups and the sneezing. You're unlucky today.
I can bring in check stubs or show you my bank statement the next time I'm here.
Oh yeah, well, since we'll talk a little bit more about outlining your goal a little bit more and kind of break it down into some smaller parts, so it's not, because moving out on your own is definitely overwhelming, so we'll kind of break it into some smaller ones, and then we can talk about like kind of what I need from you in that sense. So yeah, then we'll talk about that a little bit more, but I just want to make you aware that, you know, we'll have to start doing that. So, do you have any, like, I know last time we talked a little bit about you kind of being afraid to live on your own because, like, your previous break-in experiences, is that something that you're still, fearful of? Like, is that,
Yeah, definitely.
that'd be another con? Okay.
And that's like when I moved to a house or an apartment.
Mm-hmm. Just moving out on your own in general.
Yeah, because in a house I'm like on my own, so there's no one there. But in an apartment, there's so many people there, so you wouldn't really know if someone were to break in. You wouldn't really know who the suspect is because there are like a million people in the same building.
Yeah, a lot of people could be. So I will definitely, we'll look for some places like that maybe have like some security measures and stuff, just to. I thought you were gonna sneeze again. Just like maybe some security measures to make you feel more comfortable about this, because like I want you to feel as comfortable with this move as possible, so that it's a good experience and not something negative for you. Oh my goodness. Okay. Is there anything else you can think of? If not, that's okay. I'm just trying to get a good list.
I'm so sorry. I'm just really tired.
No, you're okay.
No, I think that's it for now.
Okay, yeah, I think that's like a good list, and I'm sure like as the process goes on, you'd see, because it's like might be hard to find an apartment, or you may have like, let's see.
Thank you.
You may not like the lease agreements or something, so I'm sure we'd find more as we went along, but I think this is a good starting one for us. Okay, so, like some of the pros, like you said, the sense of independence, the privacy, not only for you, but kind of like an escape for your family, and, possible credit boost, and then some of the cons, like you said, the freshman complex, as you put it, or, kind of going wild when you get out on your own, and then like, the possibility of falling behind with payments, and then like your fear of the break-in. So, those are some pros and some cons of moving out, but do you think like it would be like, it would still be a good thing? Like, you think the pros outweigh the cons in your with your mind?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I just wanted to make sure, since we listed some out, some that you didn't think of and some that I didn't think of, that I just wanted to make sure we like went through that together to kind of see like if that's what you still thought the best decision would be. Okay, so your overall goal is to move out, and that's kind of like a really big one. So I think it'd be really beneficial if we kind of broke it down into some different like objectives and tasks to kind of make it a little easier to take it step by step, so that we can work together to make this easy for you. Because I know when I moved out on my own, I did not think of doing something like this, and it was very overwhelming because there's a lot of parts to it. So I think, so the overall goal is you want to find an apartment for rent, but like to break that down into a couple smaller goals. So I think the first goal would to be what do you think like the first goal would be, like a good, so like to break this down, like wanting to rent an apartment, what do you think like a good first goal to accomplish would be? So like it could be something like creating a budget and creating a budget, like it could be like a first goal, or finding apartments for rent that are feasible for you, so something like that. What?
Oh man, God. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
My mom and I actually have a bit of a plan, right?
Okay.
Last year we noticed that there were a lot of people that waited to rent a place until tax season, and they paid their entire rent for the year in one time.
With their
with
return.
with their tax return.
Okay, and that's something that you'd be interested in doing?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
To not worry about rent for an entire year.
Yeah, that would be great.
That like takes a lot of stress out of
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the short-term goal would be just to find cheap places, right? Like right now, that I would be interested in, and to like keep a watch list out for the places that stay open until tax time.
Okay, so you'd be interested in moving out to somewhere for a little bit until tax time when you were able to move into like someplace you like more like long term? Like, is that what you're saying?
No,
Oh, you're saying like, have a list and then watch them around tax time
Yeah.
too, but just start it now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was confused, I'm sorry.
that way, I wouldn't be starting completely blank during tax time. Like, I would know what's out there.
Okay, since it's kinda hard to know like how much exactly you're gonna get back until, like you go to file your taxes, would it be okay if we kind of outlined a budget just to make sure that like, obviously you're gonna get money back from like in your taxes, but like, let's say if you didn't, you would still be able to cover the apartments we're looking at, because I would hate for, us to assume like you're gonna get this much back and then like you don't, and then, we're like, oh crap, we can't afford this, you know, you can't afford this apartment. So would that be okay with you if that, was a goal for us to kind of
Sure.
create,
I think it's always great to have two plans.
right, yeah, then just in case, a little backup plan. Okay. And, you also said another goal would be to create a list of apartments to kind of like keep an eye on. Would you say, which one do you think is of more importance, like creating the budget or, getting the list of apartments? Like, which one do you think we should work on first?
I don't think it matters.
Okay, so maybe we just start with the budget so we can kind of see what we can look for in terms of apartments, just cause, you know, I looked at houses that were way more than I could afford when moving out, and unfortunately, even though I wanted them, it couldn't work out like that. So I think it'd be good if we kind of get an area to see what we were able to look at. Okay. Okay. So, even just creating a budget is still kind of like a big task. There's like a lot of components to it. So we can kind of break this down into some different tasks, just so it makes it like a little easier and it's not all at once. So like for example, like you were kind of talking about, bless you.
Thank you.
Like you were kind of talking about maybe bringing in some of your,
Check stubs.
yeah, pay stubs, and then we can kind of see like what's, so do you work 40 hours a week every week, or does it depend? Does it vary?
It depends, you know.
Okay.
Because there are some days where I can't come into work.
Right, yeah. So if you want to bring in, do you, I guess, okay, I have a couple questions then. So, your pay.
Oh, wait, there's something in my eye. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, you're okay.
Ah, jeez.
Hmm.
Oh, wow.
Did you get it?
I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
I got it.
Okay. That's the worst when you can feel it, but you don't know how to get it out. So another question I have is, do you get paid weekly or bi-weekly?
Bi-weekly.
Okay. Okay. So maybe if you could bring in like, I don't know, maybe like 2 to 3 months worth of check stubs so we can kind of look at how much you make. Is it still in there?
Oh, it's just you can keep going.
Okay, so we can kind of look at all of them and kind of find like an average of what you have made over those last 3 months, just to kind of give us a better idea, because like you said, like some weeks it is different depending on when you're able to come into work. So, would that be okay with you? Or would it be hard for you to bring that many?
No, I can show you bank statements for the past, because I get direct deposit.
Okay.
I mean, I did get a few check stubs, but I just switched to direct deposit not too long ago.
Okay, that's, yeah, so if you, okay, so maybe like one of the first tasks we can do is have you, do you know if you can print off your bank statements at home, or do you have to go to the bank to do that?
I can print it off at home.
Okay, so if one of like the first tasks you wanna do, is just to print off those bank statements. Bless you. Bless you. Or was that another sneeze, or were you just?
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, if you'd want to print off those bank statements, and today is the 7th, and we kind of want to put like, kind of like not like necessarily like a hard timeline, but kind of like put dates with them, just so you can kind of, it's not like, oh crap, I forgot to do these before our next appointment, and it's all at once. So, maybe if you could print off your bank statements, by 11:10, do you think that would be feasible by, it's today, Wednesday? When? Yeah, by Saturday, do you think that would be feasible? Okay. And then, if you just wanna bring those, then the next time we meet, that would be good. And then, so I know you say that you, take public transportation, so you don't have like a car payment or car insurance or anything like that. Do you have like do you pay for your phone bill, or?
Family plan.
Oh, you're on the family plan?
Mm-hmm.
Does your mom make you pay her your portion? Oh, that's nice. So that's one less stress that you'll have to worry about. So what about like, do you have to pay any towards like your insurance, or like what kind of expenses do you have?
Right now I'm on my mother's insurance because I think the law here is you can be on until you're 25.
26, yeah.
26.
Mm.
So yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's nice then, that you're able to just, have that be taken care of, so like that too. I guess I'm in the same boat too. So does she is there anything that she makes you like contribute to, other than like, I know you said you help pay for stuff around the home, but like, is that something that she would continue to expect once you move out, or no?
She doesn't have to expect anything from me. I'm always gonna
Help her out.
help her. Yeah.
Okay, and do you like have a, so like how much would you say, do you help her out quite a bit with the expenses at home?
Yeah, her and I switch off on paying for groceries, right? So, and we use a lot. So,
Right, I can imagine with 2 younger brothers, I'm
Yeah.
sure you guys go through a lot.
Whenever she just can't, I usually pay for the groceries, or I'll surprise her, pay water bill,
Okay.
as much as I can.
Okay, so if you could, we'll want to kind of track that and kind of see like how much on average you're like helping out, because, you said you were going to continue to helping out, which is great, but like that's something we'll have to factor in when we're looking at like your total income minus like your expenses for the budget. So if you kind of want to just write down, like keep a little ledger maybe of like the date and like what you pay, like let's say you have paid the water bill on the 8th or something, like, just kind of write down paid the water bill on the 8th and how much that was, just so we can kind of get an idea of like how much spending you have going out. So so if you just want to keep track of expenses you pay for in the house. And then I'll just put that date as to be determined, and then like at the end when we schedule, at the end of the session when we schedule our next appointment, maybe if you just want to track it all the way up until there, just so we can get like a longer timeline, so better understanding. Okay. Okay, and then another aspect in creating a budget is kind of looking at like projected costs. So like right now, thankfully, you don't have a lot of expenses going out other than the ones that like you hope for with your mom. But if you do move out on your own, you'll have like renter's insurance, possible utilities. Sometimes they include it in the apartment. So another thing, kind of looking at that, is just seeing, what, like, so you can kind of look in an area and see like the average, gas bill in this area, or you can see like the average water bill and kind of get an understanding of like how much people in that area are paying for that, so that, because you won't know until you're using it, but if we can just kind of have like an idea, then that will help us when we're creating the budget. So that's something that I can do for you, is just kind of look at, in the areas where we're looking for apartments, what are people typically spending on, like, internet, are you gonna need internet? Like, are you gonna need internet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we can kind of like, see like what on average people are spending on their internet, on their utilities, on, you know, renter's insurance. So that's something that I can kind of look at for you and get an idea, so that we can create that budget, next time that you come. Does that sound good? And I'll put that one as to be determined too, because like I said, when we set the date at the end, then I'll just bring all those materials with me next time we meet. Okay, and I think that kind of covers, you know, breaking down and creating a budget. Even though there's quite a bit of components to it, I think with these resources and like bringing these things to the next time, we'll be able to create like a really extensive budget that's kind of gets us a good idea of what you're able to kind of look for. So then that second goal of wanting to look at apartments. I know last time, since you weren't really thinking about, like, you were kind of like on the fence about whether you would really wanted to start looking to move out. And you said you didn't really care about the area. Is that still true? Like, you don't really care where in Fort Wayne you'd want to live?
No, I because I lived all around Fort Wayne. All I care about is maybe just having an apartment on the first floor.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, so maybe the first task would be looking for apartments that are more feasible for you as far as accessibility. Or like, would you be willing to go to an apartment live in an apartment that's not on the first floor if the apartment complex had a elevator in it? Would that be okay? Okay. Just something where it's like not, you know, tons and tons of stairs. Okay, and so then I will bring that to our next meeting. Like a list of kind of apartments that I can find in those, with that guideline. So another thing we're kind of looking for is what size of apartment would you like?
I just want one that's large enough for me. I don't want too big, you know?
Okay,
I just need one bedroom.
just one bedroom?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then maybe I will bring just like one apartment application with me next time. So not that necessarily you fill it out, but we just kind of look at, or maybe a couple, just to look at what they're asking for, so we can get that all around before we go to do it, because like some of them ask for references or just all kinds of, they want to know everything about you these days, you know, so so we can kind of gather that stuff beforehand before we start trying to fill them out for real. Is there anything else, that you can think of that we would need to do to kind of look for an apartment, look for a feasible apartment, in your price range?
Maybe just somewhere that's like not in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
I mean, there's not a lot of places like that in Fort Wayne, but there are some places that are like just out there, you know.
Mm.
Because if I need to take a bus or Uber, I kind of don't want
To pay a ton to have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And then is your, is the factory you work at, like, where in Fort Wayne is it? Like, is it in, like, downtown, or is it kind of on the outskirts, or?
It's more on the outskirts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So does it cost a lot currently for you?
No, it only, like, there aren't really many buses that go out there, you know, but it's only like $20 by Uber.
There and back, or one way?
There and back.
Okay, actually, I guess I didn't think about that earlier with your expenses, so we'll have to, kind of keep track of, if you want to, write down like how much you spend on Uber a day too, for works, cause that's obviously an expense, since you're not paying for gas yourself, but you have to pay for that. I forgot about that, but.
And sometimes my mother just drives me.
Oh, okay, yeah, so that'd be good then if you just kinda like, just like how we talked about, when you pay for an expense around the house, just write down the date and how much. Kinda do that with Uber too, since it's not an everyday thing, necessarily if your mom's able to take you sometimes, so that'd be good to get an idea of that too, since that's one of the things you're paying for. Okay. So, for this one so far, for looking at, or looking for feasible apartments and price range, one of the tasks is looking for a more feasible apartment as far as like being on the first floor or with an elevator, and looking an apartment that's kind of closer to central Fort Wayne, not kind of on the outskirts. And that is something that I can do for you, and kind of look for some of those for you. And like I said, that will, I'll set the date for that when we set our date our next date for our meeting. And then another kind of task that we can do is I can bring some apartment applications just to kind of see what they are looking for as far as like references, so you can get that around like the phone numbers and everything. And then some of them require like a copy of your birth certificate and stuff, so like just so we can get an idea of what they would want, so we can gather that and when we go to actually start the application process. I will bring those at our next meeting as well. Okay. And then obviously we can't do this task until we create the budget, but another thing would be to narrow down the apartments that I bring that are like feasible and in the area that you like, narrow them down after we figure out your price range. Does that sound fair?
Mhm.
Okay, and then so, we'll create the budget, at your next meeting after we bring that stuff and kind of look at the apartment. So then maybe I will, we'll, cross out the ones that aren't, on all the areas that we need them to be. And then maybe you could take that home with you and kind of, or even we can look at them together, and you can kind of decide what ones that you're interested in within those ones or interested in looking at more. So we will do that at our next meeting. Is there any other goals or kind of tasks that you think we should be working on? Okay. So this is kind of a lot. We went through a lot, and I will give you give you a copy of some of the things that I'll have you do on your own and bring back to the next meeting so that it's kind of written down, because I know that sometimes it can be easy to forget it in between the two. So I will give you a copy of that, but do you are you feeling okay with what I've asked you to do by the next meeting, or you not are you feeling overwhelmed by it?
Don't I only have to
Yeah.
bank statements and, yeah, I'm not overwhelmed.
Okay, yeah, so just bring your bank statements and
A list of whenever I pay for my mother, Uber, yeah.
yeah, okay, so just kind of tracking your expenses, anything, or even if, I know you said you help out with groceries, but let's say you step out for lunch someday or something, and you go out, keeping track of that too, just because even though it's not every day, it still adds up, and we can kind of get an estimate off that of how much you may do in the future as well. So just, yeah, like you said, just kind of keeping track of your expenses, either pay for around the house.
I have the Chase app, and
Okay.
that shows what I spend, each time I spend money.
Okay, would it be possible, can you get online on the Chase account and print those off so that we can have them in paper, not just on the phone? Oh, okay, perfect. So if you just want to, yeah, okay. So if you can go back then, I guess, 2 to 3 months, you can go back and
Yeah.
okay, then if you just want to go back 2 to 3 months and print off up until, since I said, have those kind of done by 11:10, if you would I guess if you're just going to print off so print off your bank statements as far as showing how much you get paid by this Saturday for the last 2 to 3 months. Okay, this is kind of confusing. Let me write it out a little different, since I didn't realize that you had the app and that we would be doing it that way, I guess. So the task for you are to print off your bank statements for the last 2 to 3 months.
In my transaction record.
Yeah. And transaction. The app shows when you deposit money too though, right? It doesn't just show when you spend. Okay. Records. And then if you just want to have, if you just want to do that by this Saturday, then since it's the last 2 to 3 months, I can kind of get an understanding of when, how much that you spend. Since I didn't realize that you had them on the app, then that's why I was gonna have you track up until the next one, but if you can just print them off, then that's okay. We can just do those from the last 2 to 3 months. So if you would do that by 11:10, and then that's the only task I have for you, other than once I bring kind of the more information about the different apartments that are feasible for you, and in an area that you would like to live. Then once we talk about the budget, then kind of have you narrow down some of those apartments. But you don't have to do that by the next meeting. We'll just do that at the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we got a lot figured out in this meeting, and I'm really glad to hear that you want to move forward with moving out, and that you are asking me and trusting me to be able to help you with that. And
It's also more of a hi, I'm moving out before you kick me out type of thing. But
yeah, kind of just, not necessarily despite, but kind of well, I made the decision first.
It's 50% to spec.
No, I understand that. So, and I'm sure once you get out there, you'll definitely, like you said, the sense of independence will definitely be really nice for you. And I'm glad that you're, making a step in that direction. Okay, so for our next meeting, today is Wednesday the 7th. I wish I had it. Let me grab my calendar really quick so I can see. I'm horrible with knowing the dates unless I have it in front of me. Sorry. Okay. meet again on 11/19, which is a Monday, at 10 o'clock. Would that work for you? And I can write you a reminder about that. Oh,
Sorry.
no, you're okay. There's not like something to say for hiccups, like you say, oh, excuse you or bless you or whatever, but for hiccups, you just, there's nothing to say.
I hear bless you a lot because I have the hiccups a lot.
And people bless you when you have the hiccups? Really? I've never heard anybody say that before. That's funny. Okay, so our next meeting will be 11/19, so then, that's when I will, kind of bring the information for your average expenses for the area you want to live, the apartments that are available, and the specifications that we said, and then bring the apartment applications to see what we would need to gather to fill one out when we get to that. So I will bring all that to that next meeting if that's all right with you. And then like I said, just if you want to do that, what we just talked about by this Saturday, just so you can have that all ready and so it's not up until the last minute, that would be perfect. Okay. Do you have any more questions for me or anything else you'd like to talk about? Or okay, perfect.
Sleep.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, okay, so I'm really glad that we were able to get these goals outlined and the kind of task to accomplish the goals outlined. I'm happy that we're working together going forward to kind of get this done for you. So the next meeting we'll kind of go over what we bring and kind of take the next step in creating that budget for you once we have like all of your expenses and stuff, and then take the next step in looking at the apartments in that budget. So this was a really good meeting for kind of stepping in between, the wanting to move out to actually, starting the process of moving out. So I will see you again on 11/19, and it was really great to see you again. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.